Hey guys, it's Bench175, and in this video I'm going to show how to do a 25-cent Glock polish on a Shadow Systems MR920. My idea is to show every single step and every item that you need, so this will include the full disassembly. I also will be showing how to do a complete upgrade on the springs. So right now this is pulling at about 3.25 pounds at the tip of the trigger, and so this will show you basically how to get to that point. In a future video I'll be showing the specifics on how to do an install of the Ghost Pro 3.3 with the over travel stop that you shave down like little by little, because I don't have that right now. I just got an email from Ghost saying that they're sending this to me, so this is in the mail, and that'll be like a quicker separate video. But every other step is going to be in this video. So the stuff that you'll need if you don't have is a dremel tool. In this case I didn't have one, so this was 20 bucks at Walmart. It's the corded, pretty much basic hyper tough, and it comes with a box of a bunch of different pieces, and then a little canister of the Mother's mag polish is what I use. So in this gun I've already done most of the polishing that I'm talking about. There's only one spot that I'm gonna hit, and I'll do that on video so that you can see how I did it. Otherwise I'll just point out every single spot where you need a polish, which is basically all the spots where the metal is interacting with another piece of metal. Beside the Dremel and the polish, you'll also want a Glock disassembly tool, or this is basically a 3/30 seconds punch, a flat-ended one, to help you push out everything you need to. And then I'd also recommend a roll of masking tape that helps you push out the pins. First thing, double check that you're clear. So eject the magazine and then hold back the slide, visualize and empty. After you're good to go with that, oh shoot, take off the threaded barrel protector, and now pull the trigger, take it back like a 1/16 of an inch, and push down on both sides of the slide release. So it always gets hung up for me, but you just pull the trigger again, this comes off. So let's start with the top. Remove the spring, recoil spring. Yeah, let's put that here. Your barrel. Okay, so at this point you get the Glock disassembly tool. You're going to want to put this right in front of the lug, between the lug and the firing pin spacer sleeve, and then push down. And as you push down, you can slide the back plate off. So it's in there, push down a little bit, you can slide the back plate. Now you can release it, and now you can take the firing pin assembly out, and I'll go ahead and show you how to take this apart. Drop it into the channel, but place it so that the lug of the firing pin is off to the side. And at that point, you can pull down on the springs, and you can pull out these, I think they're called spring caps. So it's 2 halves. Put those to the side. So now make sure you hold on to the spring when you're doing this. Now you can remove the spring from the firing pin. Let's actually take the whole thing out. So this is the 4-pound spring that I put in there. At this point you would remove your stock spring, put in the 4-pound spring if you got the upgrade kit, and now with the firing pin you just remove that from the sleeve, and you would polish. Let's see if I can get it. You want to polish this face and this, and polish them at the same angle that they are, because you don't want to change the geometry, you're just trying to smooth it out. And what this is actually doing is, let me get the frame back. This slides on the top of this piece. So this is the cruciform of your trigger bar. So it slides on the top and it gets hooked behind it as well. So that's why you want to polish those two surfaces. Going back to the slide, now let's remove the firing pin safety, which is this little piece that's under spring tension. You're going to want to take the tool and let gravity do the work. You're going to pull the extractor all the way towards you, and then the firing pin safety should drop out. So let's see if I can get that. So pull this all the way out. There you go. Now the firing pin safety and the firing pin safety spring are out. The vertical extension of the trigger bar presses on the safety plunger to move it out of the way. And so you want to polish this whole surface, so the flat end and all around, because it does rotate, so you want everything to be smooth. And then, as I said, at this point, if you got a spring kit, change the spring out for the reduced power spring, because as the vertical extension pushes up on this, if you have a reduced power spring, it makes it a lot easier to push up, making your trigger lighter. I don't want to wait too long into the video to actually show the part where I'm going to polish the connector, so I'll go ahead and polish this off. So you're going to take the polish, you're going to take the smaller felt wheel, and then there's a shank that has a screw on it. Screw that into there. Make sure it doesn't poke out the top, because or else now you'll have a sharp point at the top. I have a little spatula here, but you can use a Q-tip, which is what I used before. And you're basically gonna spread this. Okay, put that aside. Cover your polish back up. Okay, so now I'll show you how to operate the the dremel tool. So this collet nut, you unscrew it all the way, and then inside, this one comes with 3 collets, and the copper one is the one you use for the polishing wheel stuff. Here's the collet, and then here's the shaft, and then here's the shaft lock right here. So how it works is you put this in there, you put the nut, tighten it a couple threads, and then you put the polishing tip in there all the way in. So actually for all of this, you might want to make sure you're wearing safety glasses. Tighten down the nut, and then once it gets to a certain tightness, it's going to start spinning the shank, or the shaft I mean. So that's what this is for. You spin it until you feel the shaft lock drop in, and then now you just tighten this a bit more. So now that's tight. I just plugged it back in. And so now what I'm going to do is take the firing pin safety, bring it over to my trash can. I'm going to turn this on. So this has settings back here. This is the lowest setting right now, number 1. Turn it on to let all that excess polish fly off. After you do that for a couple seconds, you're just going to hold this in your hand. Now we're ready to polish this. And so you're basically going to pass every spot, just like lightly, let the Dremel do the work. Pass every spot a few times. When you see like black sludge coming off, that means you're actually polishing. Okay, so I've already polished this, so now what you do when you get it to the amount of polish that you want, you go ahead and wipe it off. Now you can see this used to be like a copper color when it was brand new, but after you polish it, it looks like a mirror finish, almost like a chrome. Okay, so this piece is done, right? And now let's show you how to put the upper back together. Now that you've polished the firing pin safety plunger and the face and bottom of the lug of the firing pin, let's put it all back together. I'm gonna go ahead and start with firing pin safety. Put a very thin amount of oil around this, because this moves up and down in the slide. That's all I really want to put. Get your reduced power spring, if that's what you're going to use, ready. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull the extractor with your Glock disassembly tool. Pull the extractor towards you, and that way you can just drop this into the hole. So there's a very obvious hole where it goes into. So let's see if I got it. Yeah, so there we go. This is moving up and down like normal. Now let's reassemble the firing pin assembly. You can take the firing pin and put it into the sleeve, into the most open side, until it goes all the way in like that. Now we're going to use the back of the slide to help us put it together. So I'm taking the firing pin safety facing the wrong way and drop it into the channel, but put the lug off to the side like that, so that when you push down on it, it doesn't drop in. This is going to help us put the spring that we're going to use. So this is the 4-pound spring and the spring caps in. I like to put the back one in first. So pull down until you have enough room to drop the cap in. So there, I dropped the back cap in. Now I dropped the front cap in. Now it's complete. Now you can let it go. And so now the firing pin assembly is complete. Oh, so my firing pin spacer sleeve, I noticed, has a crack in it. I don't know when that happened, but I'm going to ask Shadow Systems if they can send me a new one. Hopefully they're not too expensive to replace. Anyway, inside of the channel, drop this in all the way, and now you get the back plate. Start it into the grooves, so there's grooves back there, and then I just use my finger, push it down, and then now you can see it snap back into place. So this is good to go now. Right, now onto the lower. So there's 3 pins that we're going to get out with this. Actually, let's go ahead and start looking at the spots that we're going to polish. So this vertical extension of the trigger bar pushes up on that plunger. So the firing pin safety plunger that we just polished, it pushes up on it. So you're going to want to polish the very top of this. So you can see mine's pretty polished already. In the MR920, there is a gap between the frame and the trigger bar. So I don't see any need to polish the right side of the trigger bar. But I think in Gen 5 Glocks, you're going to want to do that. Let's start taking this apart. You're going to want to start with this top locking block pin, I think it's called. So this is, remember, first one out and first one in. You're just going to push out. Now the pin's sticking out, you can just pull it out. Actually, maybe not. Maybe just finish pushing it out with a disassembly tool. Crap. Next, I'm going to push out the trigger pin. This one is a little bit tricky because sometimes it gets caught up by the slide lock. So the trick is to wiggle around the slide lock as you're pushing down on the pin. Okay, so the trick is to lightly press down with the pin as you're wiggling this up and down. It didn't sound like it was light, but that was pretty light. Now you can pull out the trigger pin. And last, you're going to punch out this pin in the back of the grip, trigger housing pin, I think. That one's very easy. So set these all aside. And now at this point, so after that first pin, actually, you could remove this locking block. So you're going to put this underneath the back end of it. Now you can pop it out. And now let's take another look. I'm going to lightly, so you just pull up on the ejector and you can see the housing starts to come out. And the trigger does as well. So these pieces rub against each other. By these pieces, I mean the trigger bar and the connector. Right here you can see these are 2 separate pieces. And they rub against each other like this. So that's why you're going to want to polish this outside face of the connector and the inside face of the trigger bar. So the easiest way to get these apart is go to the other side. You see a little hole where you can see the bottom end of the connector, and then you can take the disassembly tool or punch, and now I just punched out the connector from the other side. And now at this point, if you want to remove the trigger bar from this spring, I found the easiest way is to bend this all the way forward, and then you can slide it out of the opening. So now this is separated from the housing. And if you want to change the spring, so this is the 6-pound trigger spring. You're just gonna pull it a little bit, pop it out, swing it over the back, and now you can lift it off the housing. And to reassemble, you're gonna want to do the exact opposite. You're gonna want to put the open end over the housing, put it through the hole, pull it a little bit so it springs forward, and now that's ready to put it together later. So earlier with the housing in place, I was showing you how the connector and the trigger bar rub against each other like this. So see this little tab? The eagle's head of the trigger bar goes up and down in that space. So that's why you're going to want to polish this part right here. And on the trigger bar, you're going to want to polish the inside face right here. So this is I polished this already, and you're also going to want to polish this lifted up piece of the cruciform, so you can see that kind of looks like a cross, right? You're going to want to polish this because this interacts with the firing pin, and so does this very edge of the cruciform right here. This edge right here, and the top a little bit, the inside. And also don't forget the top of this extension that slides against the firing pin safety. Okay, the connector is nice and clean, so now let's put everything back together. I'm going to go ahead and grab the housing to put the trigger bar back on the spring. You just do the reverse of what I showed earlier. Slide this underneath. Here we go, now it's hooked on. You're gonna partly put in the connector about like 80% of the way, but still have a little bit of space so that you can turn the trigger bar into this groove, like this safety groove on the other side. So you need to slide it into the groove. Now that you have it in the groove, finish pushing in the connector all the way. So now the bottom of the connector is below flush than the housing, and it's normal for it to lean out a little bit because that little bit of angle is what keeps your Glock working. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of oil and I'm going to dab of oil where the connector and the eagle's head rub against each other. Now let's put it back into the frame. So I drop the trigger in, and then in the back, make sure that the eagle's head is underneath that lip of the connector, and then it easily drops down into place. So now that's into place. You can tell because the back of like that back opposite end of the ejector is all the way down touching the frame. Now that this is all the way down, you can put that very last rear pin back in through the frame and the housing. It helps if you push down that housing into the frame as you push in this last back pin. So there, with hand pressure, I was able to get it in. Push it in a little bit more with the back of your tool. Okay, here's the locking block. So with the 2 prongs out to the left, that just drops in there very nicely. Push this all the way down until it meets the frame. And now put the top pin, locking block pin, in first. This one, I'm going to use the wall to push this in. Okay. So you push it against something hard and that'll just pop in there. And why you need to put that top pin in first is because when you put in the slide lock, that pin is in there, and then the springy part of the slide lock has to slide underneath it like that. So that pin is above this spring of the slide lock. If you want, you can put a dab of oil around this ring of the slide lock. So there's a little gap between the left part of the frame and your trigger. That's where you're going to drop in this slide lock. Like I said before, I'm using the Ghost bullet middle slide release, and it takes a little bit of wiggling it around, but now I have the trigger pin, putting the trigger pin in. You wiggle around the slide release until it pops in. There you go, you can see it popped in. These have little grooves that will kind of like pop them into place all the way. That looks good. Okay, and now you're finished with the frame components of your pistol. So let's put it all back together now. You can put a little bit of oil on your rails if you haven't done that in a while. Let me see. I'm getting lost. So you just slide this in like this. Now, let's do a function test. Pull the trigger, or I can slide a little bit. Oh, okay, so pull the trigger, hold it down, rack the slide, see if you get a trigger reset. I'm getting a reset and a new brake. New brake. Let's see what we're pulling at now. So, I mean, it's pulling at about the same, about 3 1/4 pounds. See how it feels. Nice and smooth. So I'm gonna, like I said in another video, I'm gonna be installing the Ghost Pro 3.3 trigger connector, and this is gonna lighten it a little bit more. Then I'm gonna take it to the range and well, I'll take it to the range first. That way it's kind of like a review video of the Ghost connector that I'm gonna put in there. Hopefully I covered everything. This is ready to go test it at the range before you depend on it for self-defense. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll talk to you guys next time.